And we're back. Okay, so back to normal video mode. We're going to be doing the weathering effects. I didn't end up going with the candlelight yellow. We're actually going to shelve that really quick. It's way too bright of a color for the distressed look of the Nuke. The red came out in two good coats. It came out a little bit uneven in spots, which I actually am really happy with. And then as you saw in the time-lapse video, we ended up doing the stripes in the tail kit. Be leaving that like that, and we're going to be focusing on the weathering in this video, and we're going to start off by getting supplies together. So this is one of those face sponge scrubby thingies you use to clean your face with. This one has lived out its effective life, which I'm going to be cutting it up now. I actually, as weird as this sounds, like, why are you using a used one? Actually think it's going to be better because it's used. The fibers are broken down quite a bit. We're just going to cut this in half for good measure while we're at it. Fibers are broken down quite a bit. If you look around the edges, there's a lot of like fibers coming up around the edges here. Not just in the area I cut, but across the cross section here, there's a lot of loose fibers around the bottom. And what it's going to allow us to do is have a lot of loose fibers. So things we're going to need for this part are, they're not limited to, something to test it with. We're going to be going back to the tile palette here. Wet palettes are good. I don't think wet palettes are necessarily the end-all be-all to everything. I do like them a lot, oh, and then last thing is we're going to be replacing our water. So there's a water dish. I'm going to tilt the camera back here. Water dish that sits on this block of wood. We're going to move it off to the side. And this is our metallics water dish. That is in a sealed container so I don't accidentally cross-contaminate it. So basically what happens is if you put, we have, in this case I'm going to be using Citadel's lead belcher for some of the rust, or the chipping and metallic damage effects through the brush accidentally there. Thank you for noticing. Citadel Space lead belcher, and what will end up happening is if I dip a paintbrush in this and then I wash this in my water, later when I dip my paintbrush in that water, it'll end up collecting some metallic filaments, because this paint has literally like metal in it, and when I basically attach that to my brush and then I put it on something, it'll give the metallic look all over, kind of a weird way. Not really sure why I ended up going that route. So I'm going to take the tiniest little dab. You see that tiny little dab there? I'm going to work it in to the edges of this, like that. So you see there's a little bit of moisture. Kind of get off the remains here, and then you see that tiny little effect right there is exactly what we're going for. So we're going to go kind of a light once over spots that I like, and then we will direct apply in any other spots that we feel are needed. Two things to do is rotate the piece and or the sponge when you're doing this, so that it's not symmetrical. We're going to do pretty heavy on the tail kit here. I like the idea of the chipping being pretty heavy. And as that dries, we can build up. So what I'm going to do is actually shelve this right now, and we're going to switch to polished silver. This is by Reaper Minis. Shake paint, check. Tiniest little drop, check. Oh, got a little bit of paint right there. Just gonna brush that on there. And then dab off the excess so that when we come through, see that bright polished silver look. Do it a little bit, caught a little bit of that raised edge there, caught a little bit of raised edge down here. A little bit of raised edge over here, over here. Okay, and now, thank you, you have served your purpose. We're going to be switching techniques a little bit. This is a 1/4 inch scruffy brush. This is my dry brush, and what I'm going to be doing is loading this metallic into the bristles here. Scoop that all up. Not a lot, but it's in there, and then basically come through. Now the direction that I'm going is crossways, so the filament, as you can see, the raised edges are this going this direction. I'm going to be going crossways to that, and it's going to cause the dry paint to collect around this raised edge. And a technique called dry brushing. And dry brushing is specifically used to bring highlights to the edges of stuff, and or it's good for like weathering. Weathering naturally happens on raised edges. If you are confused about that, take a look at any piece of furniture in your house. If you have a pet or a kid, you will see the area that they come in contact with is usually the leading edge of the tables, sometimes the legs. We're just going to kind of build it up in random areas here. Got a little bit there. I'm really happy with that. Now the thing is, I want to go over this whole thing, but I need to actually concentrate it. So if I kind of do it flippantly, what will happen is it'll give the whole mini a kind of shitty, glittery look to it, and that's actually not what I want to do. Also spilling my water everywhere. It's not what I want to do. So put that back there. Actually, I'll need this once more. We're going to do some management and cleaning here. Okay, wipe that off. And I want a thin, let's do something like this. This is one of my number ones. This is a Reaper number 1 paintbrush, if you care. I'm going to go for the darker metallic color of Lead Belcher again. Take a tiny little drop there. Spread it out on my palette. Here we're going to be doing the metallic highlight around the lower edge, whatever caused this ding or dent. That's what we're going to be focusing on right now. Also, there's a little bit of action here. that. A little bit of highlights around here. I'm going to get a tiny bit more metallic paint. And what I'm trying to do, yes, I'm having to go back and reapply, but I do not want this metallic paint on the wet palette. The wet palette being my cheapy Chinese food container apparatus, because that moisture causes the metallic filaments to not do what I want them to do. So I'm going to avoid that. So there we go. Really happy with that area right there. I'm going to be taking these two, had contact with metallic paint, set them completely off to the side, and we are done with them for the night until they can basically be fully cleaned. So these guys are good. They'll be actually shelved off to the side, and we'll be continuing our details video. This palette is actually getting set completely off to the side as well. And the wet palette is back in action. So back in the wet palette, what I'm going to be grabbing is our color number 0 brush. And we've got some Mephiston red base color here. We've got some of our, what is this? Heavy golden brown. Sorry about the camera knock. I'm going to be taking the tiniest drop of candlelight yellow, putting it on the palette, and then I'm going to be taking the tiniest drop of Reaper Brilliant Red, and I'm going to be putting them next to their respective base colors here. There you go, 1 drop of each. Get our metallic water out of the way so we don't accidentally put anything in it. And make sure it's closed first off. And now what I want to do is basically take a little bit of this color, a little bit of this color, and start mixing in some sort of like highlight color. And this highlight is going to go anywhere the paint ended up that is maybe on a raised surface like this right here. A little bit on that raised edge right there. A little bit on that raised edge. Doing highlights on a round surface, kind of interesting. And now, actually, not happy. I'm gonna split this mixture in half. So we got a darker highlight on the left-hand side and a brighter highlight on the right-hand side here. If you can carefully see what's happening down there. I'm just picking through some areas, doing a first highlight. Spots like that. Spots like that. Spots like that. And now we're going to go brighter with the candlelight yellow. Do a second highlight. Very thin second highlight. Places like that, and places like that. Third highlight, pure candlelight yellow, and now we're going to roll the brush in it. So now it's loaded on the edge of the brush. And if you can see, I'm going to edge on, make contact. Some of these raised parts right here. Right here, not happy with that one. That one's That's fine. Third highlight is really only in one spot. That's it. Walk away. Just walk away. It's a lot safer. And now, back in our Mephiston red, I'm going to mix it in a little bit here. And now, we have to work on our highlights. Now, because there's so much more depth to what's happening here, we get to work around all these holes here. Focusing on highlighting the bottom of the holes because that's where light would reflect off of. Ooh. Way too much paint on the brush there. A little bit of work around the edges there. Not trying to cover up whatever damage caused that. I'm going to do some cleaning. Got a little overzealous in that area. Cleaning with our highlight color. Doing a little bit of perspective highlighting on the top here. Brightening up the color. Want to do a little bit of a dry blend or a dry brush here without going full wet blending to highlight that top area here. So a little bit more. Pull the paint away from the top dome of the dome here. So got that. Now let's knock out our tail fin kit. I'm only doing a light stripe of our mixed highlight color right here in the middle of our palette. On the top half of these fin stripes. That's where light would grab onto them. So we got some damage here, battle damage. Alright. Fins look good, dome looks good, damage looks good. Okay. Last thing I want to do is some rusted weathering. For that, I'm going to be using a mix of Seraphim Sepia and Agrax Earthshade. So, first things first, Seraphim Sepia, take a drop, put that on the palette, bigger drop. This is Sepia, you can see it's like a brown, orange, or is an orangey wash color. Agrax, you already saw, we used that earlier, is the wash that is a more of a brown color. See how dark that is next to the Sepia. And then I'm going to take about one drop. Actually, correct myself. I don't want to take a drop of Lamy Medium. This is going to be scary. Okay, got it. One drop of water. So I mentioned earlier, water causes the paint and the wash to basically have a watermark edge around it, and I think something like that would actually be a lot more fun for our rust effect. So I don't want it to look like shadow, I want it to look like rust. I want it to have a definitive line around the edge. Uh-oh, they're getting closer together. I'll work it away there. So I want to take things like this and put a little bit of line of rust down it. Not every screw hole. Some of them, especially this area here. Get some rust coming off of it. Some rust coming down this inside edge here. Just got it coming off of here, coming off of here, coming off the tail kit. That one was a little much. It's fine, just leave it, walk away. Leave it, walk away. There's some exposed metal here, so maybe you're gonna have some rust effects. So if you see there's like a slight silver highlight there, so that's gonna get some rust around the edges. Maybe just put a, what if I just put a big blob on there like that? And it ends up taking on that kind of rusted color. There's a little bit more on this side too, so you're gonna get a big old blob like that. Maybe some coming around this edge here. Some coming around this edge here. Now when it dries, it'll be a lot more subtle, so I'm not worried about overdoing it at this point because it is diluted, it has water in it, and it's meant to dry a much more subtle color. Say the nose cone won't have very much standing water on it. I think a lot of this rust damage will come from places like this. So it'll get drawn down like that. Like that. Okay, I like it. With the weathering, you just gotta put the paintbrush down, walk away at a point, not go too crazy. And so this is our somewhat completed mini Nuke here. I'm gonna put some paints back on the shelf, and we're gonna, I guess, do a part 4 where we mount these screws into the screw holes on the sides of this thing. There we go.